Right now, we can make a major projection in the battle for control of Congress, with huge, huge consequences here in Washington and indeed across the nation. CNN projects that Republicans will win control of the U.S. House of Representatives, reclaiming a majority for the first time in 4 years. This is a major blow to Democrats as Republicans gain new power to potentially limit President Biden's agenda and to make crucial decisions about House investigations. Let's go to Manu Raju up on Capitol Hill. This is a major development right now. The Republicans take the majority in the House, Manu.
Yeah, and with that, the power of the committees and the power to set the agenda, which is why this is hugely significant. Even though it is not as big of a majority as Kevin McCarthy, the Republican leader, had wanted. They had hoped that they would be in the 230-seat range, maybe even 240-seat range. We don't know the final numbers here, but we do know that they have at least 218 seats. That is the majority to take back the House. They may have up to 220. We'll see ultimately how many they have, but significant, because once you have the majority in the U.S. House, you have the chairmanships and each of the key committees. That means you have subpoena power. You can set schedules for hearings. You can call cabinet secretaries to come testify. You can do what your party wants to do. On the floor of the House, the Speaker of the House Majority Leader get to set the exact schedule, what they're going to bring to the floor, what they refuse to bring to the floor, and decide the priorities, which is why winning back one chamber of Congress will have significant ramifications for the next 2 years of the Biden administration. Remember, Wolf, the Democrats had control of the House and the Senate in the first 2 years under Joe Biden. They had the narrowest of majorities, 50-50 in the Senate. They had a handful of seats in the Democratic-led House. They were still able to do a significant amount of legislation by passing bills, for some significant bills, along straight party lines, because they could do that under the budget process that allowed them to pass something like a nearly $2 trillion COVID relief bill. Also, that sweeping Inflation Reduction Act dealing with healthcare, climate change, taxes, and other issues. They will no longer be able to do that because in order to move through the budget process, you need to have support within, essentially, among your party, and Republicans and Democrats would not agree to move such sweeping legislation like that. So what does this mean for the next 2 years, Wolf? It means that any legislation that will pass almost certainly will be incremental. It will have to require a significant amount of consensus on both sides of the aisle. It would still need to surpass a 60-vote threshold in the Senate. Even as the Democrats are going to regain control of the Senate, they may have 51 seats, but they will still need 60 to pass anything. So what can actually get done in the next few years is an open question, but they will have major things to deal with next year, including raising the national debt ceiling to avoid a debt default next year, funding the government, always a tricky issue, something that could lead to a shutdown if there is not an agreement between the two sides. But at the moment, the big pressure point for the administration will be those investigations into the Biden family, the border, the origins of the coronavirus, among a whole wide range of other issues, as a new dynamic here is now in Washington, Wolf.